Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the Tea with Tina podcast. Today we are wrapping up our mini series about wellness across the life stages. We are finishing it up with midlife and elder health and vitality, pretty much learning how to age gracefully throughout your years. So you can go into your golden years and go past the menopause and everything and do it with some grace and still bring your health and fitness into play. Okay, so that's what we're going to be chatting about. If you haven't caught the other episodes, check them down below for the links. Excuse me. Check down below for the links and you can catch up with us, okay? So just diving in here, the tactics that we're going to use for the midlife to elderly and beyond is very similar to the tactics with adults. You can see that throughout the life stages, if you've been listening, there is a solid foundation, right? It really boils down to that basics of movement, proper hydration, proper nutrition, stress management, a social life, right? Like even if you look into like the Mediterranean diet, the blue zones are becoming popular and trendy again, but like it always boils down to those things, right? However you want to package it, however you want to make it look, it's always those things. And as we age, there are some hormonal shifts, right? Our hormones change, especially for females. Our hormone levels drop. So we're going to notice some things, and that can be hard to deal with. So I'm going to give you some tips for that as well. And just some things to be mindful of as we age, because we're living so much life that, you know, maybe we've picked up some injuries, some aches and pains. Maybe we have a walker now. Maybe we had surgery. Maybe we're on medication. And I think it's important to take those into account as well. But the beauty of health and fitness, which is why I got into it, is that anybody can improve their health. I don't care if you are a quadriplegic. You can better your health. Anybody can better their health through diet, through nutrition, through mindset, through movement. You can do it. And that's what I love about it. So don't think that you can't. It might just look a little bit different for you. Okay? So let's talk about this. The first thing I think that's going to be important, especially as we age, is keeping a healthy weight. Being overweight can increase your risk for things like heart disease, diabetes, Alzheimer's, a whole host of health issues, right? It's kind of like a chain link correlation type deal. But if you listen to the adult episode, I kind of chatted about how, as we kind of get out of our school years and we get into the middle of life where it's like this supposedly is portrayed as like you just work, eat, sleep, and like that's your life until you retire, right? We get stuck in this routine. We get caught up in the rat race and we put on pounds because we develop unhealthy habits and we don't know how to counterbalance it, and we get stuck. We stop growing, we stop learning. It's kind of sad, right? But you can change it. You can add value to your life. Banks's food just dropped. You can add value to your life. You can continue to learn. You can pursue. You have the ability to pursue a life that you want, no matter where you're at. You know what I mean? So you have a way to be better, and you have access to the World Wide Web, which is beautiful. You can Google pretty much about anything. You can YouTube just about anything and learn what you want, and choose to better yourself day in, day out. Even if it's through podcasts, no pun intended, but it's very true. So some other things would be eating more whole, nutritious foods. And I want to put an emphasis on this because I feel like, again, with some of the changes, our digestion's probably going to change a little bit. Our body's just overall going to be more sensitive. And this sounds a little morbid, but I mean, as you age, your body starts to break down, you know, it gets older, it's not at its peak anymore, it's stopped producing and growing, so now it's kind of like coasting and declining. So you want to preserve what you have. And eating the more processed crappy foods is going to, I think, speed up the breaking down process. So the more nutritious foods we have, the more nutrients you're filling your body with to be able to build back, repair, and preserve what you have. So I think that's why it's even more important to eat the nutritious foods. Again, some things you might run into is if you're on certain medications, it can affect your appetite, it can affect how food tastes. You might have weird side effects from illnesses or things that you have picked up over the years. So be mindful with that. Another thing is staying active, of course, right? The basics. Now, this may look different than adulthood, right? You might have to change your intensity a little bit. You might have to change your methodology a little bit. You know, we're not looking to deadlift 300 pounds unless that's really what you want to do. There are some like 90-year-olds out there that do it. But even in your 40s, 50s, and beyond, you might just, like I said, need to change what you're doing and have it be a little bit lower impact, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it's less powerful. So you might walk more, you might hike more, you might do group classes, maybe middle-aged senior focus classes. There's lower impact like chair classes, maybe yoga, flexibility, Pilates. You can still do strength training. Like I said, you may just not be deadlifting 300 pounds. It's all relative, right? Do what's challenging for you and what's safe for you. Especially at this age, for females, our bones, because of hormonal changes and menopause and things like that, our bone density tends to go down. And sometimes you're genetically predisposed to this, so you're gonna even need to keep up with it a little bit more. But you want to do weight-bearing things, because when you do weight-bearing exercises, higher impact things, even walking, strength training, these things are going to help strengthen your bones, because it's pretty cool what your body does. When you add that resistance to your bones, it goes, oh, well, we have this resistance against our bones. We got to make them stronger so they like stand up to this. So over time, your bones do actually strengthen and build up. If you don't use it, they really truly do wither away, just like your muscles. They'll just break down because your body's like, well, we're not using this, so let's use up the resources from this area, right? So that's something important to think about. I think a good rule of thumb as far as activity though would be trying to do strength training like at least 2 times a week, and then sprinkle in the other things that you enjoy. Like I said, whether it be classes, walks with friends, gardening, like try to think of active hobbies that you can do. That would be great. Flexibility is another thing. I know I touched on that a little bit with yoga, stretching, certain, elderly classes will focus on it a little bit more. I hate to say elderly because we're talking about people going through midlife too. It's kind of a range, but definitely with flexibility, especially men, if you don't use it, you lose it. Estrogen is what produces some more flexibility, which is why women tend to be a little bit more flexible than men, because we naturally have more estrogen, but even that declines as we get older, so our flexibility starts to change. And what happens is if we don't stay flexible, we're more prone to injury, we are more prone to tearing something, pulling something, and we don't want that, right? Because the recovery time is a little bit longer as we age. So if you stay flexible, you stay bendable, movable, moving in all the directions, and you're not stiff and fragile. If you were to fall, you could probably catch yourself better. If you were to slip up, you could probably recover better and not pull something. I can't tell you how many times I've like tweaked something the wrong way and I'm like, oh God, am I going to injure myself? But I think because of my consistent workout routines, movement routines, I don't get a long-lasting injury from it. So it's very important. And then something that's kind of just general is be good to yourself. And I think this is good for all life stages, but I think it's important especially as we age, because things like relationships, they always say that elderly people are very lonely as they get older, right? Maybe loved ones pass away, they move away, they grow apart, your kids are doing their own thing. Maybe you don't have kids. Like I said, friends move away, people get caught up in their own lives. So I think that's why it's important to stay in touch with whoever you want to. Maybe you're not that close with your family, maybe you are. Maybe you have old friends, maybe you want new friends. Former coworkers if you're retired, because that's hard too. You see people at work every day and then you go to not working at all. That could be really hard. But try to create social groups. And that's another reason why joining classes, having a walking group, hobbies, that allows you to meet new people and keep relationships going, and chatting. Okay, another thing, seeing your healthcare professional regularly and share any concerns. I know sometimes doctors get a bad rep. I've had my experiences too, but I still think it's important to go. It's important, I think, to document your health over time so that way you can catch trends. Maybe something started to change 10 15 years ago, but if your doctor wasn't documenting it, you might not have caught it now. So it kind of gives you that baseline to go off of, going like, oh, well, your health has always been at this level and now something's changed. That's weird. Compared to if you go to them when you're like 60, 65, you know, they're not going to have a history to reference anything off of. So, because everybody's body's a little different. So definitely try to go regularly, get your checkups, go to the dentist, get your eyes checked, all the basics at the very least. And, you know, bring up concerns with your doctor. Feel free to, you know, write out what you want to say, you know, write it down so you don't forget. Bring a trusted person with you to kind of give you support and give you a little bit of a confidence boost if you need it. And these tips are good for anybody. I've used them myself, okay? So that's always important. Then we have get enough sleep. Sleep, they claim that humans need less sleep the older we get, which is kind of interesting to me. I don't know how much of that is true, but sure, I'm a sloth. I like at least my 8 hours, usually 8 or 9 hours, because I just love sleep so much. And I do make it a priority to get it in one way or another. And sleep is when our body repairs things. Sleep is just so good. I could probably should do a whole episode on sleep and its importance, okay? If you are retired, again, pursuing a new hobby or volunteering to help keep you active and social. And you know what? This could be for people who aren't retired. I doubt there's many of you that volunteer or have set hobbies, and I encourage you to do it. You know, set aside some time to really have a hobby that's outside your career. I know for me, I've been kind of eyeing up doing guitar lessons. I know I have art, I have a creative outlet, so I like to paint, I like to draw. It is a little bit time consuming, but I try to make time for it at least a couple times a month if I can, with little projects and just some time to zone out. I do want to learn guitar though, so that's something I'm gonna look into too, because that's a hobby that I want to force myself. I'm like, hey, like if I can set aside like maybe an hour a day and watch like a YouTube video about it, and I have my guitar and I have a starter guitar and I can practice, that would be something cool to do. Or even if it's a half hour a day. Like think about that too, because I know you're probably busy or whatever it may be. Think about what's something that you've always wanted to do or wanted to try, or browse some things and really plan out and be like, how much time would I need to commit to this every week, every month, every day? And how can I make that happen? You know, so something to think about there. And volunteering is always good. That's another thing. Once my schedule solidifies, because I am an online coach, but then I'm also like an independent trainer. So my schedule kind of evolves around my clients, and I don't necessarily have a set schedule yet. It's kind of floating. And once I get that established more, I would like to commit to volunteering at an animal shelter. They usually require you to do about, I think it's 8 hours a month. So that'd be like 2 hours a week. And I would like to keep it fairly consistent. Like, oh, Thursdays I go from 8 to 10 a.m. or something like that, you know? So I will probably be doing that. Volunteering makes you feel good too. So, you know, you gotta love the volunteering. And then surround yourself with people you enjoy. This comes to boundary setting as well. I've done countless podcast episodes about this, but I think, you know, eliminating toxic relationships, setting good boundaries for yourself, knowing when to cut off relationships and knowing when to nurture relationships, I think will help you in the long run create a circle of people that you enjoy. And if you don't have the best support system, there's always the internet. You know, Facebook groups are a great place. Try to find positive, uplifting Facebook groups, listen to positive, uplifting podcasts, start to surround yourself with those people in any way possible that you can, even if it's not real life, and it will make a difference, I promise. Okay. A couple more things to chat about. Menopause, for my ladies listening. I think this deserves its own podcast, so I'm just going to briefly touch on it because it's a whole big thing. But pretty much with menopause, your hormones do change, right? Hormonal changes are never fun. Everyone's experience is different, which is kind of why I also don't want to touch on it too much, because like I said, hormones are so complex. You know, what one person may experience, the other one may not. But, you know, we tend to see like bone loss, lower sex drive, hot flashes, mood changes, usually fat redistribution, some more fat storage in the midsection, could have energy changes. But what this comes down to, again, is chatting with your doctor, doing your own research, and address your individual concerns. Because you know, if you have hot flashes, they might be able to prescribe you a medication for it, or there might be a treatment, like a natural remedy that you can try to help with that. You know, depending on what you have, you can address those things individually, and it might be a little bit of trial and error. I definitely recommend joining a Facebook support group or having friends that are maybe going through the same thing as you to confide in, because it's good to just like chat with people and have somebody to vent with and being like, yes, I see you, I hear you, I'm going through that too. And definitely, I lost my place, I'm sorry, because I'm looking at my nose. The big thing is following all of the basic healthy guidelines, okay? If you follow the guidelines and have that strong base, which I think I was talking about in the adult podcast episode, is if you have that strong base, I was doing that weird thing with my hands. If you have that strong base, then it's going to be easier to kind of diagnose the individual things, because you might be experiencing symptoms, but you might just need to drink more water, or you might just need to eat a vegetable. Like, you know, don't make it harder than it needs to be. You don't need to spend hundreds of dollars on fancy supplements or drugs or whatever it is. Start with the basics, get the foundation, because the basics are going to benefit every stage of life. Okay, they are essential to living a quality life, to feeding your body when it needs. So start there, okay? And then the last thing, which I want to reiterate on, is keeping up with your doctor and your health. You know, especially like as we age, it's important, because just getting older, inevitably your chances of something popping up, it's gonna happen, unfortunately. You might get sick, you might acquire a disease, you might lose your eyesight, you might have high blood pressure. Little things like that are gonna happen. But of course, if we focus on creating a strong foundation of health and practicing healthy lifestyles, the chances of acquiring those things tend to go down. Okay, so all of this works together in unison, but it's always just good to be mindful of your health, okay? But other than that, I think we're gonna wrap it up. So thank you for tuning in to the Wellness Across the Life Stages mini-series. I hope you learned something in all stages of life, you know, whether you deal with these people in your everyday life or you learn for the future for yourself. But what we've learned, right, is to stick to the basics, because that keeps the strong foundation. And as we go through the life stages, there are some tweaks that we can do to help us in those specific life stages, because we have certain lifestyle habits and certain things tend to pop up. But keep on chugging, keep on living your best life. I hope this helped you out, and we will chat soon, guys. Bye for now.